What the hell is
So
up
I
with
gotta
y'all
get
and these
into
calisthenics, man?
is that
Bro,
it's easier to
go
implement
to
because
the
like
damn gym, bro.
I could just bang out push-ups right here.
Listen, bro, go to the
Yeah,
gym.
man.
Man, this is the worst advice I've yet to hear. We've got the expert coach saying not to do calisthenics, and then the guy who's calling in saying that he can rep out push-ups, therefore calisthenics is easy. And I personally do not blame them because unfortunately, majority of people truly do not know how far calisthenics can take the physique. Take into account you're implementing the correct training principles within the context of building the body. So in this video, I'm going to be exposing the common lies about calisthenics. So as you saw in the intro, I clipped a very short video from one of FitX Fearless's videos. And I actually did watch the entire video, but the content doesn't really fall into the lens of calisthenics training, so it's irrelevant. But one of the key moments that took my interest was how FitX said that one shouldn't do calisthenics training, and pretty much how he insinuated for him to just go to the gym. And because he didn't provide any further explanation or reasoning, I'm going to be going based off pure speculation. So bear with me now. But FitX had the caller show his physique, implying that the training that the caller is currently doing is clearly not working, which led me to believe to the first common lie that people say about calisthenics. You can't build muscle with calisthenics training. And this is literally one of the most common misconceptions regarding calisthenics. So let me present the truth of the matter. When it comes to building a muscular physique, one needs to take a couple steps back to understand what actually causes the process of building muscle. And I've explained it so many times to the point where I'm just gonna let a video that I posted of myself a few weeks ago to break down the main variables that are needed in order to build muscle. So the main drivers for muscle growth is gonna be mechanical tension, metabolic stress, and muscle damage. And to briefly summarize, mechanical tension occurs when the muscles begin to contract, causing high levels of stress to the muscle fibers, such as lifting heavy enough loads or placing enough stress on a muscle, which studies indicate training between 80 to 90% of your 1 rep max for 3 to 5 reps will induce the highest levels of mechanical tension. Then the other component is metabolic stress, a phenomenon that occurs when a muscle is stimulated enough, which releases built up byproducts such as lactate and hydrogen ions, which play a contributing factor to stimulating muscle growth. And achieving this can be done by training as low as 30% of your 1 rep max, aiming for higher repetitions. Then the third contributing factor for causing muscle growth is muscle damage, specifically micro tears to damage muscle fibers by resulting in training isometrics, concentrics, and according to an article published by the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research Association, the greatest damage to muscle tissue is seen with eccentric exercises, where muscles are forcibly lengthened, resulting in muscle repairing agents to stimulate muscle growth. Now that you have the context of what builds muscle, you need to understand that any form of resistance training that checks those 3 principles will build muscle. However, what determines an ideal form of resistance training is how much effort you are putting during an exercise in order to reap the most benefits of mechanical tension, metabolic stress, and muscle damage to initiate the process of building muscle. So let's take the pull-ups and lat pull-downs for example, one of the most arguably best exercises for your back. Let me not forget to point out that these are 2 different resistance training styles, and they both place adequate amounts of stress on the back muscles. However, the degree of how much and how frequent that stress is being placed on said muscle, which is the back, will dictate just how well will you respond to inducing muscle hypertrophy. So in simpler terms, this will dictate how useful an exercise is based off how you're training it. So if you're training the lat pull downs, one of the number 1 exercises for the back from a bodybuilder point of view, you're only doing light to moderate loads with the combination of not so many repetitions, leaving you with 5 or more reps left in the tank. Your training is suboptimal, meaning you will attain minimal progress. Same thing applies to the pull-ups, but this time, instead of training with moderate intensities and leaving a lot of reps in the tank, you're training with high intensities and leaving absolutely 0 reps in the tank. Now, you will see progress with this particular principle with the pull-ups. However, if you're not careful with managing your intensities over time and allocating enough time to just recover the body, to reduce the accumulated amount of stress, then that progress that you made will eventually come to either a complete halt or just be very minimal progress over time because of the simple fact that you're overtrained. So in both scenarios, I provided the two best exercises in respect to their resistance training style that best hits the back, with two extreme use cases where it will lead to either little to no progress. Now I painted this picture and scenario for you to demonstrate that it's not necessarily the exercises that you're doing that's not allowing you to build a bigger back, but rather it's more so upon the variables that contributes to building muscle, and just exactly how are you training those said exercises? How much effort are you putting? How much recovery are you allocating as well? So quick pause. Let me know in the comments. When it comes to training in general, what exercises do you find to be the most pivotal to build your physique? And would you say the amount of effort and how well you implemented it directly affected how well you're able to build muscle, whether it's through calisthenics or weightlifting based exercises? Now, the second common lie that a lot of people seem to have is that calisthenics is too easy, or calisthenics is simply beneficial for only beginners.
Is that it's easier to implement.
Go to the
Like,
damn gym, bro.
I could just bang out push-ups right here.
Oh man, my guy's easily going to prove my case with these next couple of points that I'm about to make. Now, in respect that this is only just a clip, and knowing that this is not literally the only exercises or method of training style that he implements, but the fact that bro said calisthenics is easy because he can just go bust out a couple reps on the push-ups with no sweat is partial evidence to some degree why his physique is quote unquote not impressive. Like, no disrespect to you, my guy, but just listen a little bit closely to understand my thought process behind it. And like I mentioned, this is just pure speculation based off like this 20 to 30 second clip. Now, the reason why I say his physique isn't impressive is because FitX then goes to cook the boy about his physique and tell him like, yo, like, stop doing calisthenics, go to the gym.
The physique is decent. It's not the best, but it's decent. So for you specifically, bro, you got a bigger head. You need to try to shrink that as much as possible. Right? You don't want your head to be bigger than your damn body. So that's why I need your body to get a little bit bigger. Right?
Now, it is important to note that push-ups are a great foundation for calisthenics, but calisthenics doesn't just stop at the push-ups. If anything, push-ups are merely entry level for calisthenic folks, meaning you can progressively overload the push-ups by moving along the push-up progression hierarchy, and depending on your targeted muscle group, if it's the chest, start doing pseudo planche push-ups, or invest in rings and perform ring push-ups with its variations. Now, if you want to focus on the shoulders, then progress to the pike push-ups and eventually wall handstand push-ups. And taking that into account, one shouldn't just resort to only training the basic level of calisthenic exercises as their main majority bulk of their training. Okay, that's easily going to lead you to a very quick route to no progress. So with that being said, even though the push-ups is a great exercise for the chest, for the triceps, for the shoulders, and even a little bit of the core, it's important to note that you need to understand how to implement progressive overload to continue stimulating your targeted muscle groups to induce muscle hypertrophy. This is why I still continue to train the basic calisthenic movements and build muscle strength with basic movements like the chin-ups. And after training the same movement for the last 2 to 3 years, but learn how to implement progressive overload with these strength strategies, which enable me to get to a point of currently doing 160 pounds for multiple repetitions. So hear me out. Are you the type of person who wants to work out in a very simple and effective manner, where you don't want to spend more than an hour in the gym while still being able to increase your strength, build a lean physique, and pack on 10 pounds of muscle or more? Then be sure to schedule a free 15-minute consultation call with your boy, where you have the opportunity to speak directly with me regarding your current training routine, the goals that you had in mind, and I'll be able to identify what areas needs to be improved in order to optimize your current training routine. And I actually had a brother reach out to me after we had initially did that first call, and this is what he had to say.
So over the past couple months, I was struggling with my handstands and handstand push-ups. So I was on the wall for a couple months. I noticed this YouTuber and Instagrammer called Cobra Trains, and I booked one of his consultation calls. And he was able to simplify the progress and the perspective of how to improve your handstands and handstand push-ups from going on the wall to being off the wall. So, for example, he gave me tips on how to do pike push-ups, how to build up that straight arm strength, how to build up that pushing strength by doing like weighted dips or doing pike push-ups, doing push-ups on the wall. So, and that within a few months, I was able to go from doing handstand and handstand push-ups on the wall to just doing them on the floor with ease. So I recommend booking Cobra Trains because he's honestly the best person to give advice when it comes to handstands and handstand push-ups and any type of calisthenics and weighted calisthenic training, to be honest.
Now, the third common lie that people say about calisthenics is that calisthenics is too difficult or simply too complicated, which results in people, just your average goer in the gym, staying far away from them pull-up bars, those dip bars, you know, the jungle gym area, right? Let alone even trying to touch a parallel bar because it just looks too intimidating and complex for them to even start calisthenics, which I know it goes completely the other end of the spectrum regarding to my last point about how calisthenics is too easy or just only beneficial for beginners. But the truth of the matter is one can scale the calisthenic movements through progressions in order to make the exercises more difficult in the context of what's ideal for inducing hypertrophy. And one can scale the calisthenic movements through regressions in order to make the exercises easier in the context of increasing strength adaptations to move up the exercise progression ladder, but without taking away the focus of building muscle. And I actually currently do this with my planche training, which is arguably one of the hardest calisthenic moves to unlock. But instead of just beating myself up because of how difficult this exercise is, how far out of reach this movement is for me, I instead take it upon myself to do some research and find ways to regress the exercise difficulty where it aligns more so to my current levels of strength without straying away from the way to specifically train for learning the planche, which in a practical sense can be done by training progressional movements, such as starting with pseudo planche leans, then tuck planche, and so on, or by training the actual movement but at a lower intensity, such as using resistance bands and gradually reducing the band thickness to implement progressive overload. Now, there's many more methods to help improve my straddle planche efforts regarding my training, such as dynamic training, whether you're coming from a handstand down to a negative planche hold or doing presses where you're pressing from a planche up into a handstand. But this is all to say that with calisthenics, there are a plethora of ways to start training a movement, even when it's difficult or even when it's easy, and still make measurable progress by just adjusting your mindset a little bit, be a little bit more creative, find ways to progressively overload, find ways to regress the movements, right? It's not just you either do it or you can't. There is a middle ground with calisthenics. You can work through the progressions to bridge the gap between being weak and being a little bit stronger. It's all about sourcing the correct information that's already out there and implementing it in a way where it makes sense from a strength programming perspective. But hey, what do I know? If you want to see more content like this, be sure to follow me, man. I'm the Tough Fitness Scout, yeah. No cap.
Cobra Trains, he's up next. Make sure y'all subscribe to him. He's number one out here.
He's the toughest fitness guy out here.